Welcome to another video, and in this one I'm going to be giving a bit of an overview of the new build that I'm playing in Hardcore Trade League after my second character of the league went splat. That was my second Righteous Fire Chieftain. This is a life stacking Inquisitor build, something completely different, and it's using the Untouched Soul unique amulet, which was added to the core game in this patch, and it has as many empty sockets as possible to take advantage of that maximum life scaling from the amulet. So let's just head straight over to the character to discuss it there. So here is my character. I'm currently level 85, so not too far into progression just yet. I have almost 11,000 life, almost 4,000 energy shield, so quite a lot of life and energy shield for a level 85 character. But that is kind of the goal of this build, is lots of life stacking. And so first I want to just show off my passive skill tree, because I think this is probably the most interesting thing about the build. There is pretty much no damage nodes taken anywhere on the tree. There's one node here. You could call this a damage node, Holy Dominion. And there's also Iron Will being taken here, and everything else is life or regeneration, some resistances here, max resistances. And then we're taking all of the life masteries so that we can secure that 10% more maximum life, which is really nice. And of course getting another 10% more maximum life from blood magic. So that's where all the life's coming from. Basically no offense taken on the trio, it's all life, but we are turning that life into offense. So let's take a look at what items we're using on this build. So, as I said before, this build was inspired by Rise QT's Inquisitor from the start of the league. He didn't play that Inquisitor too much into progression. I think he made it to level 90. I'm not sure whether he quit the league or his character died, or I'm not actually sure what happened there. I wasn't following his character too much. But I did take note of it at the start of the league, and then I thought, after I died on this character, I thought, oh, that's a fun character idea, and I want to kind of do something with that. So we are making use of the Crest of Desire. That's kind of the whole makeup of this build. The whole idea of the build is that all of the damage comes from life stacking in combination with this item. So Crest of Desire is a helmet which has one slot, and it gives you a massive amount of gem levels, quality as well for that one socket, and it makes those skills deal double damage. So we're using Tornado of Elemental Turbulence. Originally, I was planning to use Ball Lightning of Orbiting. I actually leveled a little bit with Ball Lightning of Orbiting, and I found out that that skill is quite unfun to use if you can't use Spell Echo support and if you don't have very good cast speed. And this build can't use Spell Echo, obviously, because we can't support this gem at all. And also, getting cast speed on this build is really difficult. As I said on the tree, we're basically taking no offensive clusters at all. And there's not that much cast speed we could go for. We could probably go for this, or something like this here, but cast speed is mainly going to be coming from the weapon, and right now we don't have very much cast speed on this. This weapon is okay. It's giving us 2 gem levels, a little bit of crit multi there, a little bit of cast speed, and some spell damage and non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage, which is nice. But this weapon can be improved upon quite a bit. But if we are going to get any cast speed in the build, it's going to be coming from the weapon, so that's potential there. But Ball Lightning of Orbiting wasn't feeling great without cast speed and without Spell Echo support. And so Rise QT on his build, he was using Tornado of Elemental Turbulence. And I did kind of question this before I started playing the build. Why was he using that skill? Well, it turns out that Tornado of Elemental Turbulence doesn't really care about your cast speed because it's capped at 3 tornadoes. So even with base cast speed, you can reach 3 tornadoes. You can't really get any more than that, which means that you're not really punished for having slow cast speed. And since this build can't get much cast speed, this is the perfect skill for this build. And we're also playing an Inquisitor, so it kind of plays into that 100% Fizz converted to all different elements. And so this is a really, really nice skill for this particular build. So Tornado of Elemental Turbulence, how it works is it's a physical skill. Every time you use it, it picks a random conversion, fire, cold, or lightning. And because we're Inquisitor, and we're taking this wheel here with Righteous Providence and Inevitable Judgment, we basically always crit. I almost have capped crit chance. I will have capped crit chance in my endgame POB. And then whenever we do crit, we bypass enemy resistances. And Rise was actually using a unique Delirium small cluster jewel for Secrets of Suffering. And in my endgame POB, I actually have 100% crit chance without Brittle. So I don't think I need that, because in a way Secrets of Suffering is kind of wasted on an Inquisitor, because you're not benefiting from Scorch. You do get a lot out of Sap, especially in hardcore. Sap is really, really nice. But I think that I'm just going to stick with normal Tornado of Turbulence without Secrets of Suffering. And I don't think I'm even going to use Combat Focus. I thought about Combat Focus. Losing a dual slot for Combat Focus is actually quite a big opportunity cost, because you gain so much life out of the maximum life scaling from a dual slot, and you gain so much damage out of the critical strike multiplier, because this build doesn't have very many ways to get critical strike multiplier into the build. So those dual sockets are really, really impactful, and in a very late game setup, I'm going to be going for the Adorned anyway. So I think that going for a combat focus setup where I exclude fire, it would be fire that I'd be excluding so that you can still freeze and shock, but I think that it's not worth it. So I'm just going to leave it as is, and it means that, you know, sometimes the tornado is going to be igniting, but the other 2 times when it spawns a cold tornado or a lightning tornado, the shock is really impactful and the freeze is really impactful. So those are really nice elements to have access to. So I think it's fine going with this setup. And as I said, I don't need the Brittle to reach crit cap. And the reason why I don't need Brittle to reach crit cap is because I'm using Assassin's Mark and I'm also using Frost Shield. So Frost Shield is just a really nice addition to this build. Any gem slot that I'm using that isn't an open gem slot is basically an opportunity cost. Obviously, I need a movement skill, so I'm using Flame Dash. I could be using Shield Charge as well. I have thought about it. I think Rise was just using Shield Charge on a 1 link. So that's definitely an option there as well. But Frost Shield, for example, it's an opportunity cost. If I didn't have this gem, I would have another open socket and getting more life there, and more life scaling is more damage. But Frost Shield is just really nice. It's basically like a guard skill, because I'm not running an actual guard skill in this build. So Frost Shield just gives me some defense, and it also provides a bit of extra crit chance there. So how this build works then, as I said, Crest of Desire is scaling up that tornado. I have a level 21 tornado with 20% quality, and then it's getting 8 gem levels from this helmet, and it's getting another 2 from the weapon. So it's a level 31 gem. The quality on here is actually really nice as well, because Tornado gets movement speed from the quality, so the extra quality from the helmet is quite impactful. It's nice for mapping. And then the kind of crucial part of the build is the Untouched Soul, the amulet slot, which gives you plus 40 to maximum life for each empty red socket on any equipped item. So I have a total of 15 empty red sockets. So right now I don't have quality on this, but as of right now, I'm getting 600 raw maximum life from empty sockets on my gear, which is huge. And I'm choosing to use a lightning coil in this build. That's a purely defensive choice because I'm playing hardcore. I know Rise was using a Belly of the Beast, which gives you a massive amount of increased life. And that is ridiculous, actually. The difference of putting Belly of the Beast in my build is like an extra 1,500 or 2,000 extra life on top of what I already have. So that is a big opportunity cost, but defensive-wise, this body armor doubled my max hit against physical hits, so it's a really, really impactful item in this build. And because I don't have any other defense against physical damage at all, it's just this lightning coil at the moment. In the late game POB, since I'm using Purity of Elements, it's going to be a Purity of Elements Watcher's Eye for physical damage taken as elemental, with the lightning coil, and then also the armor and energy shield mastery for physical taken as chaos. I should be able to get somewhere around 70% of physical taken as other damage types, so physical damage shouldn't really be too much of a problem at that point. And then how we scale the damage, so we've got that gem with a lot of gem levels. The damage is all scaled using Rathpith Globe, which is a pretty common item on life scaling builds. It's a shield which sacrifices 10% of your life whenever you trigger or use a spell, but what it gives you is 5% increased critical strike chance for spells, and 5% increased spell damage per 100 player maximum life. So this item is giving us a huge amount of increased critical strike chance and spell damage, and that's partly why taking increased damage on the passive tree is really, really poor. Like, it's not a very good trade-off. You can either scale your life, and with life you actually get damage as well, or you can choose to just scale damage. You don't get much return on that damage because you already have a huge amount of increased damage coming in from the shield. And this is the reason why this build even works in the first place. So the shield is a huge part of the build. And another huge part of the build is the Replica Soul Tether. which is why we have all of this energy shield. You can see if I take it off, my energy shield just disappears. That's because this belt is giving us 6% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield, as also providing Corrupted Soul, which is another 15% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. And this can actually be scaled up to 7% on the belt with Catalyst as well. However, I think in a late game setup, I'm going to be replacing this belt with the Keystone, with the Corrupted Soul Keystone from a Timeless Jewel on the tree, and then actually getting a belt which has a massive amount of increased life and flat life. It's going to be a Hunter belt, I think, or an Elder belt. And with that setup, I'll actually have less energy shield because I'll lose this modifier on the belt itself, but I'll have a lot more life. And since life is mostly scaling everything on this build, it's scaling the damage from Rathpith Globe, and it's also scaling our regen because we're playing Inquisitor. So our regen from life is applied to our energy shield. So it doesn't really matter how much energy shield we have. The scaling of regen comes from our life. So if life is much higher, if we're getting a lot of percentage scaling from life, then it's going to be improving our energy shield regen. So I think my energy shield in a late game PoB is going to be somewhere around 3,000, maybe 3,500. And life will probably be closer to 14,000, maybe even 15,000. With an Adorned setup, it's going to be more than that. But that's what I'm looking at right now. And so the rest of the gear is pretty mediocre. I have a couple of rings here. All of this gear is just to cap out resists and any stats that I need to use. Like, for example, this has Dexterity here. I actually have the point of Dexterity taken on the tree as well because I wasn't able to use my skills. So gear can get a lot better. And as I said, I don't have Catalyst on here. This is actually a lot of life that you gain from this, from the Catalyst, and also Catalyst on the belt. And of course, there's plenty of other options I can do for scaling the offense and the defense of the build. For the offense, as I said, increased life from Catalyst will go a bit there. And there's also the Crest of Desire can be double corrupted for gem level modifiers there on it as well. That's a little bit difficult to do because there's not many Crest of Desires on hardcore trade, and the ones that do exist, not many of them are +8 to gem levels, so I'd actually have to buy them, all of the ones that are +8, to try and double corrupt them, and then if I didn't get lucky or whatever, I'd need to buy the other ones and actually divine them to +8. So that's going to be a little bit of a struggle there, maybe not even worth it, but obviously you could get potentially another 4 gem levels there from the helmet slot, so that's quite impactful in terms of damage. And for defense, I can actually double corrupt the Rathpith Globe for physical damage taken as another damage type, potentially even 2 of those modifiers, one as elemental and one as chaos, so that would massively improve my physical defense. And of course the lightning coil can be double corrupted for increased damage, for +1 to maximum resistances, increased life, things like that. So there's some really good double corrupts that I can get on the unique items in this build. The Untouched Soul is like a late game double corrupt as well. If I got this amulet with +1 curse or even +1 max res, that would be a huge upgrade as well. +1 curse would give me access to punishment. So there's a lot of improvements that this build can get to, and this is just early days basically here at the moment, but so far, I'm enjoying the build quite a bit. The build is quite slow. It's not like a fast-paced build at all, but that's kind of my speed. I don't really play very many fast-paced builds. I'm used to playing RF Chieftain quite a lot, so that's a fairly slow build. Anyone who's played RF Chieftain will know. Kind of nice for mapping, and you can zoom around for mapping with explosions and stuff, but when you come to like tankier targets, it is quite a slow build. And this build is very similar to that. It's kind of a slow-paced build, but it's quite fun. It's something completely different. And yeah, thanks to Rise QT for the idea for this build. It's a really fun build concept. So that's about it. I'm not too far into this character progression just yet, but as I said, I'm enjoying it. It's a fun build concept. Cool use of the Crest of Desire as well, in my opinion. Tornado is kind of one of those abilities that just works really well with this item. And hopefully I won't rip this character too soon, so I can provide another update on it soon. Big shout out to my channel supporters over on Patreon. Thank you so much. If you'd like to join them, you can find all of the information by following the link in the description below. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.